In this episode of Podcast Tactics, you will learn how two lifelong friends have created an intriguing paranormal show. Listen in for tips on podcast promotion and strategies for getting relevant show guests. If you want to keep learning how to podcast from other podcasters, join the mailing list at podcasttactics.com. Now, let's get into it. Joining me right now is Kelly Morgan and James Baez. Kelly and James, thank you for coming on the show and joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
I am super excited to talk to both of you about this fun, amazing show that you guys put together. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let you guys introduce it. What's the name of your show? And please tell us what it's all about.
Well, the name of our show is That's Some Crazy Shit. And it's basically about what me and Kelly talk about just on an everyday basis. You know, there's so much stuff going on with the paranormal world, modern medicine, ancient knowledge. It's just crazy. And we just enjoy talking about it. And we also wanted to give people a platform who've had paranormal experiences, somewhere where they could come and share their stories and not feel like they're being judged or not believed. So that's kind of where we're going with that.
When did you guys come up with this idea to just start putting what you guys normally talk about into the podcast format?
Take this one, James. Me and James always have these conversations, right? And these are just stuff that you just can't talk to everybody about because they'll dismiss it. They'll be like, you're crazy. They won't entertain it. So one day we're talking like we always are. We're having a conversation. And James is like, we should do a podcast or a YouTube channel. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to call your bluff. If you are serious, and I remember I said this to him, if you're serious, 100% serious, we'll do a podcast. We'll figure it out and we'll do it, but we're going to have meetings and it's going to be structured. And we're going to have order, right? So,
because she knows I'm all over the place.
So if we're going to do this, then we're really going to do this. And guess what? He was serious. And so I couldn't back out because he was serious. He showed up to every little meeting that I scheduled. He showed up. So
it's almost like he was taking revenge on you for challenging him.
So we did it. We figured it out and we did it. We didn't know what we were doing, but we figured it out.
I got to tell you guys, this genre of, the mysterious, the paranormal is my jam. I mean, just full disclosure, from when I saw what your guys' topic was about to listening to today's episode, I don't know if you saw, but I immediately followed you on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. And I was like, this is a great show. I love it. So before we get into an episode discussion, I feel like I'm gushing a fanboy, moment here. Sorry. Let's talk a little bit more high level about your guys' podcast. I think you guys started in September officially, right? Your first episodes came out, just a few months ago, about 6 months. That's, relatively new. You guys are the third interview that I am having today where you all started in September. And the volume of work that you guys have put out since then, you guys have put out a lot of episodes since September. How are you guys doing that? You guys are just hitting record and going.
Well, go ahead, James. Go ahead. No, well, I mean, okay, I'll take this part. It's been slow going from the beginning because in the beginning we would record and I didn't know how to edit, right? I don't know what I'm doing, but we're going to kind of slap this together. So if you listen to our very first couple of podcasts, they're not well edited. There's a lot of dead air and I didn't know how to edit that stuff out, but every single podcast I would get better. And James would be like, you're getting good at this. I'd be like, I am getting good at this, right? And I can edit that out. Don't worry about it. And it became easier for us to be able to record and me to be able to edit it quickly. So we record every Saturday.
Okay. Uh-huh. And how often do you guys release an episode? Is it once a week or is it twice a week?
Once a week now.
Once a week, yeah. Once a week.
Really? Okay, gosh, man. It seemed like you guys had a ton. I thought you guys were doing twice a week. Anyway, You guys have been...
we do have the content to go twice a week. We really do. This stuff is, when Kelly and I sit down, we start popping out ideas. There's just so much we could talk about. And we really could go twice a week. But, like Kelly said, we're just slow and steady right now.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about that. How do you guys come up with topics? How do you guys come up with topics that you want to, do for a show? What's your process around that?
James, is there a process?
Well, what we do is it's just like when we sit around and you just shoot the breeze with your friend, we'll just sit and talk about God. I remember seeing that movie as a kid, and then we'll sit and talk about movies for the next 45 minutes.
So it's literally on the fly, it seems like you guys are like...
We'll sit down and we'll try to brainstorm with ideas. We'll be like, okay, well, James will talk about the stuff that he likes. He's big into Bigfoot. He likes paranormal ghost stuff. Mm-hmm. I like more of the meditation and the vibration and the frequency and the alien stuff. And so from there, we can just have this organic conversation and write all our ideas down. And then whatever we decide we're going to do, we try to do a little bit of research so that we can come and be credible about what we're talking about. We're not experts, but we want to talk about it.
And that's something I've always enjoyed even when we were kids, is reading about these things that were unexplained. And, one of the reasons I wanted to start is because I have had paranormal experiences, and I know people who have paranormal experiences. And the more we did the show, the more people were willing to come out. I bet if you were to ask some of your friends or, ask around, you would find more people have these experiences than you really realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. I'm a believer. I, think that it totally is a possibility and that it's happening and something that we just don't know or can't explain. I think that there's a lot of mystery in the world, and that's what I love about this planet, is that there is a lot of mystery in the world and it can't be explained, and it leaves us in that kind of wonderment of life.
Exactly.
So I want to back up even more now, just a little bit, and talk about your guys' background. You guys have known each other since you were in kindergarten. Is that accurate? Yeah.
That is accurate.
Yeah. And you guys ended up in different places now. Kelly, you're in Colorado, and James, you're in Salt Lake City, Utah, I believe.
Correct.
We didn't grow up far from one another. We went to the same elementary school.
Okay.
Right. And we've always stayed in touch. Kelly's gone to different states over the years, and she's always stayed in touch with me, and through these long phone calls and the time we've known each other, we're just so in tune with each other. It's nice to be able to talk to someone who kind of gets what you're saying and isn't just gonna... Well, Kelly does laugh at me, but it's all in good nature, she believes what I'm talking about, but and that's nice. Like, she also has the yin to my yang. We're always kind of a balance, and so it's nice to have that relationship with someone for that period.
Had you guys always been talking about the paranormal since kindergarten? Do you remember the first conversation that you guys had about the paranormal or mysterious things?
That's a good question.
We've been talking about it for so long. I don't know. I wouldn't think we were in elementary. Maybe as we got a little older.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say older, because James's thing was always Bigfoot. So we would start off with a lot of Bigfoot discussions, right? And then that would lead to aliens.
Yeah.
And then I would be like, dude, I was on YouTube. I saw this thing about reptilians. Did you know that the queen was reptilian? And then we just have this full-on conversation, because if I tell that to anybody else, you're going to be like, okay, right. And that's the end of the conversation. Even if James is like, I don't know, Kelly, he'll still entertain me. Just entertain me for a half an hour, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about the possibility of it, right?
Exactly. And yeah, we throw questions at each other, I like to play the devil's advocate sometimes, and I'll say, well, what about this, Kelly? And it's not in a dismissing way, but it makes you think about different viewpoints. And
yeah, I will say, I want to ask this question right now, actually, because it's popping into my head and I don't want to forget about it, but it's based off of the episode that I listened to earlier today. I'm sure you guys know the X-Files. Who is Mulder and who is Scully? Like, I feel like, James, you're Scully.
That's a good question.
And Kelly, you're Mulder. But maybe there's a little blade over there. But in the episode that I listened to, you were being so rational, James, and Kelly's like, I want to believe.
That's funny. That's a good analogy. But and the funny thing is, we can switch roles though, depending on what the topic is.
Sure.
That's funny. I love that analogy.
Well, you guys definitely, your kinship with each other, the connection that you have with each other definitely comes across in the show. It's something that I really enjoyed hearing. The banter that you guys have. You guys are great with guests too. It's just a lot of fun to listen to. I love the topic. So again, I would encourage anybody who is like wanting to go into the paranormal or examine these mysterious things to really check out your show, because it is a lot of fun to listen to.
Thank you. And I'm glad you're having fun too. Is because it is fun to do, and we want people to have fun.
Right. We want to laugh. We definitely want to laugh.
I do want to pick your guys' brain about like challenges that you've ran across since you've launched in September. What kind of challenges have you encountered, and how have you broken through those?
Go, James.
Well, for me, the challenge has been the technology.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't email a lot, and I don't Zoom. And so Kelly being patient enough to show me how to navigate this stuff, that's been a challenge for me. So.
Okay. Well, you're doing fine right now on the Zoom. And Kelly, how about you?
Big thing for me.
My challenge has been teaching James the technology.
Fair enough. Okay.
But if you're talking about the show, I think our challenge really has been getting more listeners. We have a steady group of listeners, but growing it is hard because it's time out of people's day, and it's nice when they want to take it and spend it with us. But there are a lot of podcasts out there too. So
yeah, there's a ton of them out there, and they can pick whoever. So when someone chooses to pick me and James, because we're not experts, we're not influencers, we're not celebrities, we're just two friends having a conversation about some crazy shit, and we hope that we want to. At the end of the day, we always say we want to entertain, right? But we want to inform. We think we're pretty entertaining. We're hilarious, right?
In our mind,
I agree. I mean, you have an outsider's perspective here, and I think you are absolutely entertaining. The subject matter is absolutely entertaining as well. But I want to back up a little bit and ask you guys, about the promotion part of your podcast. How have you guys been promoting the show?
You take that one, Cal.
We have been using social media. So what I've been doing is I got us on all the social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't think we're LinkedIn appropriate. We have a YouTube channel. And so every week that we have an episode, I try to promote that week by putting it out on those channels and trying to gain followers. That's our problem. How do we market it? And we thought about using a marketer and doing certain things. And we're talking about now starting a website because we really, really wanted to decide if we're going to keep doing this. Do we want to keep doing this, James? And we decided just the other day that yes, we're going to keep going, and then I said, well, cool. Then we need to up our game, get a website, and really start to try to engage people and get more listeners.
So I listened to That's Some Crazy Shit with special guest Molly Hess. I believe that might be actually, when I started listening to it this morning, it was the most recent one, and then I noticed that you guys snuck one in, a newer one in this today, so it's the second to the most recent one as of this recording. But I want to first say that, and I don't remember who it was, James, I think it might have been you, but she had answered a question, and then you asked her to give some more description around what it was that she was. So she was explaining a paranormal occurrence that had happened, and you said, can you describe what that looked like? You got more information out of her, and I was like, that's pro move right there, because this is not a visual medium here. She just kind of cut through the chase, and you really it showed to me that you were listening to her response, and you were seeing it from the listener's perspective, as in, well, what did that look like? And you encouraged her to give more details where it was needed. So I keyed in on that, and that episode, it kind of actually brought something up for me personally. She was sharing something about the smell of roses, and when my dad died, it was like that happened for us too. So that was like,
really?
I was like,
really?
Oh my gosh,
That's, yeah.
It was like those very brief like moments where it's like, oh my gosh, it smells like roses in here, and then it would go away. And my dad loved roses. He had a garden. So anyway, I loved that she's into ancient aliens. This is a very long way of me kind of ramping up to how do you guys find your guests?
Well, some of the guests that we've had, we've known personally or we've had experience with. Kelly has brought us some guests, and how have you reached out to those, Kelly? Those guests?
I used a service called radioguestlist.com.
Okay.
And they sent us the people that were like The Mentalist that has the show in Las Vegas. They gave us reach to those types of people who are maybe more established. The professor who teaches and has written a series of books.
Dr. Bruce.
Dr. Bruce was one. Joy Elaine, her episode's the one that you said we snuck in. She's another one where using that service has given us a greater reach because we've reached out to people that we may know. Like we had a pediatric gastroenterologist. Well, I happen to work with doctors, so I reached out and it was just a conversation, and he actually volunteered to be on the podcast. So, I mean, we've been very fortunate because it's been steady. All of a sudden, it's just been a steady flow of guests.
And that was a concern of ours at first.
And that service that you're using, they're feeding you guests that are in the genre of which your topics are about, whether it's paranormal or kind of mysterious nature phenomena.
Yeah. They have fed us people like that are just, even if it's something like somebody who maybe is like into like maybe frequencies or vibrations or meditation or whatever. Anything that's kind of strange like that is perfect for us because we want to talk about it.
The other things that I noticed, at least in this episode that I listened to, is that you guys have a bed of background music underneath the interviews. Is that typical for you guys? How did you guys, kind of settle on that?
Well, that was Kelly's move. I mean, it was a good. I just didn't know how to do it, but she put that in, and it goes good, it kind of fits what we're talking about. Yeah,
it really, for the stories for Molly and her daughter Candy, I worked very well for that episode. I was curious about if the other episodes that you have,
they all do. I try to put background behind all of them because I just feel like it just adds to the conversation. Mm-hmm. It's like if you were to watch a movie without music, you wouldn't get the same feeling. That's how I feel about the podcast.
So my next question, I want both of you to answer. Kelly, I'm going to start with you. If there's one episode that somebody should listen to in your current backlog of episodes, which one would that be?
Out of all the episodes that we've done, my favorite episode is when James talked about his crazy shit, his personal paranormal experiences, because at the root of it, that is the reason why we are doing the podcast. And it came out kind of organically because I'm like, he was always saying, if people want to come forward. I'm like, but what about you? We've never heard your story. So we took a whole episode and we talked about it. And James had stories I had not even heard. So I liked it. And so because we talk about them all the time and I know him and I believe him. Right. And it's just crazy shit. That's how we talk.
Which episode was that one? Is there a number that you have for that or a name?
I want to say it's season 2. I think I just called it James's Paranormal Experiences. It might be like episode 5 or 6.
Okay. Wow. Early on. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was but season 2. So.
Oh, season 2. Yeah.
So this season. So it was a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But I just that was probably my favorite one because it was basically us interviewing him telling his story, him being the guest of the podcast.
What about you, James? What's your favorite?
Well, my favorite was our Bigfoot episode, which is one of the first episodes. And I think it was my favorite because it was one of the first. And it kind of brought back where we all started. I was a Bigfoot guy from a long time ago when we were kids. And it seemed like that was where we started as kids. And it seemed like a nice circle back to where we're now doing a podcast about what we used to talk about. And that's my thing. I like Bigfoot. So
yeah,
he loves Bigfoot.
So this is another question that I want both of you guys to answer too. And guess, James, I guess I'll start with you since you're up. What do you want people to get out of listening to your show? Why should they listen to your podcast?
Why should they listen to our podcast? I think if they listen to our podcast, they may feel that they're not alone if they've experienced these happenings. And I want them just to know that they're not alone. I think that's when we started, that's what I wanted people to really come out and have a place to share. And I want them to get that from our episodes. And I also want them to have fun, But we're a place where you can come out and you can share your experiences. No one's going to judge you. You can do it anonymously. You can come on being a guest. But you can come and share your story. And that's all I want. People to be able to share their experiences and their stories, because this is some wild stuff that's going on out there.
Indeed. And Kelly, how about you?
The same thing. I want people to have a place to come, but I also want people to be entertained. And I also want people to have an open mind. More than anything, at least just entertain it for the next 45 minutes, that there are reptilians under the ground ruling the world. I didn't say that there were, but it's kind of fun to think about, right? It's one of those things. It's like, it's that crazy. It's probably true, right? And then we go down a rabbit hole. So I just, we want to entertain all sides of everything and not be biased. So we'll even have people on that we don't necessarily agree with, right? We don't agree with what you're saying, but we're not here to judge you. And we get to ask you questions about it and have a conversation. And that's really what it's all about. Just trying to have not even an understanding, but we don't have to be mean and rude just because we disagree with what it is that you're saying. But we also want to have an open mind that, sure, yeah, we'll bring you on. Let's talk about it. Why not?
You're practicing what you're preaching, right? You would like other people to have an open mind, and you guys, it works the other way around as well. You have a guest on and it's kind of like you're challenged by something that they might be saying, and it's like, okay, I got to put my bias aside here.
And just have an open mind and have a conversation and be able to ask questions, because I want to know why you think this. Why, why? Give me some information. And I think James is like me on that. We ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, we want to understand. Too.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. We'll ask each other questions, and and it's nice to be able to think about it. Kelly will give me pause for thought. I have to stop and think, and that makes sense. And we do. We just kind of we look at things not critically, but in a way where we want to understand.
What is one piece of advice that you would give a new podcaster or somebody who's interested in starting a podcast?
Learn how to really edit your podcast. Because it's something that is really valuable, the ability to be able to edit and really try to make it sharp. I told James my dream is for us to put more production behind it than what we do now, and that's the dream, and one day it will happen. But when we first learned, I wish I would have known more about that on the front end, but I just kind of learned as I go. But I would recommend anybody who's going to do a podcast, it's really important about the editing part.
And what I would add is, do it because you want to have fun, and it's fun for you to do and something you enjoy.
Yeah, I would agree.
So let's hop into a time machine here. You guys have been going at this for about 6 months. I mean, really, you guys been going at it for your lifetime, right? But on the podcast scene, 6 months. Let's go a year or two in the future. What are your hopes for your podcast?
That's
you want to take
question.
it, James?
Yeah, I know think about this one.
I know what my hopes are because I think about it all the time. I would like us to have a robust listenership. I don't want to say a number because I don't want to limit the number. So I say robust, a great listenership to the point where we've attracted a real live sponsor, right? And now the podcast has a sponsor because our listenership is so strong, and we have better production and better tools to put out a quality, sharp podcast. That is what I would like to see us, and become maybe household names. Kelly and James Catch Up, Kelly and James Lunchbox.
Yeah.
Kelly and James
action figure for me.
Action figures.
Yeah. No. But for me, I would like to see us, like it says, have a nice listenership. And I would like to see more people come forward where we're a forum for these people. That's what I really would like to see in the next few years is, people coming on, maybe doing a video with us. You send us letters. I want to be able to, like I said, help these people get their stories out. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, you want to engage more.
One last question before we wrap things up, and it is for both of you. When your podcast gets made into a movie, who is going to play the leading roles? And maybe what I'll do is I'll ask James, who do you think is going to play Kelly? And Kelly, who do you think is going to play James?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, James, who's going to play me?
Now, I don't know actors very well, so Kelly's the movie person, but who played the woman in Suicide Squad? Wallers? Amanda Wallers, who was that? Viola something?
Viola Davis.
That would be Kelly, Viola Davis.
Huh. Okay. And James, I think that, who would you be played by? I think you'd be played by you remind me of like a young De Niro, but a younger De Niro. It'd have to be. I don't know who that would be, but I like you as Robert De Niro, the younger version. Andy Samberg. There you go. He could play you.
Nice. Yeah, I can see that actually.
He could play James.
I don't know who that is.
He could play you. He could play James.
You guys can see the panic on my face.
Guys, please tell us where people can learn more about you and your podcast.
So we are on all the social media, Instagram, Twitter. It's always That's Some Crazy Shit. You can also email us. That's the quickest way to reach us. That's Some Crazy Shit Podcast @gmail.com. But we are on Facebook, K&J's Podcast. We are on Instagram, That's _Some Crazy Shit. And we are on Twitter @That's Some Crazy Shit.
Guys, I would love to keep in touch. Can we do a follow-up in like 6 months or 8 months down the road just so we can do another interview, kind of check in, maybe share some ghost stories or something? I don't know, but I'm hoping we can make it happen. If you guys have the time, I would love that.
Yeah, let's put it on the calendar. Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds like fun.
The name of the show is That's Some Crazy Shit. Kelly and James, thank you so much for coming on. I love your show. Like I said, you have a fan right here. Highly recommended. It's a good time. It's fun to think about. Thank you for putting it out. It's really, really fun.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks again to Kelly and James. Check the show notes for links to learn more about their podcast, That's Some Crazy Shit. I would love to hear what you got out of this episode. Leave a review on podchaser.com to let me know. The show notes has info for how to do this, and feel free to make suggestions for what I can do to make this show even better for you. And make sure you subscribe and follow Podcast Tactics to learn even more about podcasting in future episodes. Thank you.